Thank you. Thank you, President Rick, and thank you all for being here. I have a little game that I want to play with you before I actually begin my talk, and it's called Just Like Rotary, and it's pretty simple. All you have to do, if what I say is true, is raise your arms and say, just like Rotary. You think you can do that? Just like Rotary. So here we go. I am proud to be a Silverdale Rotarian.
Just like Rotary.
I have hosted a youth exchange student at some point.
Just like Rotary.
I'm a Paul Harris Fellow.
Just like Rotary.
I was inducted as a Rotarian in a bar in Victoria.
I was.
Just like, okay. I have asked someone to join Rotary.
Just like Rotary.
I wish I had a big screen TV just like President Rick's. Okay. I ate too much candy at Halloween. All right, there he is. Okay, and finally, I have had perfect attendance in Rotary. I have had perfect attendance in Rotary. Thank you. So thank you so much. I want to talk to you today about this year's theme, which is Be the Inspiration. And when I was in San Diego, along with the other 528 incoming district governors, the theme was revealed. And International President Barry Rassin, we all felt, got it just right. Because you see, he understands that we try to make a difference and we try to bring hope to the world. When we were there, I was reminded of how like-minded we are throughout our world in what we're attempting to achieve every day. Our district council meets 3 times a year, and we operate much like the board of a Rotary Club, with our 17 assistant governors and with the members of our district committees. And last year, about a year ago, one of our assistant governors, who will remain unnamed, but it was actually Meredith Green, actually raised her hand and she said, "Why do we have those district governor visits anyway?" I'm sitting in a chair, and note to self, I'm thinking, I better have a darn good answer for that question before I visit 90 Rotary Clubs and 4,550 Rotarians. You see, we are the largest district in North or South America, or Europe for that matter. And there's a lot of pride that comes with that. But what's important to me in her question is the why. Why do we do what we do? Why do we host a turkey trot? Why do we have a duck race each year? Why do we have a president's work party? Why do we ask people to join Rotary? Why do we give time from that other 8 hours in our lives, besides work and sleep, in the service of others? They're daunting questions, but they're significant questions because they help define who we are as Rotarians. A memorable teacher once talked to me about what was called the art and the science of effective instruction, of teaching. Well, today, when you walk out those doors and head back to the rest of your lives, I want you to carry with you 2 words. I'm going to talk to you about the heart and the science of Rotary, of service, of being a Rotarian. Because you see, the heart is the why. Why do we do what we do? Why do we take time from our lives? Why do we try and improve the opportunities for other people? It's the magic of Rotary. The science is the how. How do we learn to do things more efficiently and effectively so that our time and our resources have the greatest imprint or impact possible? You see, I think we could all answer the question of why you joined Rotary. But what's really important is I believe we all have stories and we have moments. And I believe that each one of us in this room right now is connected by invisible strands, threads. We'll call them the stories that unite us in our work, and the stories that should be told and retold multiple times because they open the doors and they welcome others into the world of Rotary. and into an understanding of who we are and why we do what we are. Why is membership growth so important? It's pretty simple. You see, more hearts equal more hands, equal more opportunity to do good in our world, to leave an imprint. And I want to thank you at whatever point in your life that you made a decision to become part of this family of Rotary. So let me return to the heart. I'm going to tell you two stories today because I'm a bit of a storyteller. The first story is my heart story. And guess what? You get to go up to Campbell River with me, my hometown. Who's been to Campbell River? Wonderful. All right. So you know that you'll get to Victoria and you'll drive for 3 hours north. It's a November morning. It's dark, ugly, bleary. Rain's coming down, winds are blowing, and we're all walking into the Maritime Heritage Center, where the Daybreak Rotary Club meets every 6:45 a.m. on Tuesdays. And into the building walks a lady we'll call Mary. We'll call her Mary because, well, actually that's her name. So Mary walks in with her husband and with her teacher, and she is being honored as the Rotary Student of the Month. And when her teacher gets up to explain Mary's long and arduous journey, she tells us how Mary's husband, who was there on 2 previous occasions, had attempted to drive her 20 minutes south of town where they live to the Rob Brown Center for Continuing Education to have her register for her courses to complete her high school graduation. She wouldn't get out of the car. On the 3rd attempt, he parked the car, took her by the hand, helped her register for her courses, and here she was 3 years later on the verge of high school graduation and being honored as the Rotary Student of the Month. Now, the important thing about Mary is that Mary is 73 years old. And when Mary gets up to speak, to thank us, in a very trembling yet determined voice, she tells us her story. She said, "I still remember how 65 years ago, sitting in a grade 2 classroom in Ontario, there came a knock at the door, and she said, I knew they were coming for me. They were coming for me. I was one of the stupid ones. I couldn't yet read." And there was such shame in that. She was being targeted for some kind of intervention, but the way it was done left her feeling that she was marked. And as she told us this story, her husband, sitting beside me, tapped me on the arm, and he said, "Isn't she something special?" And we all heard it, and we were all joined in what you call a Rotary moment. You see, Rotary has this remarkable ability to acknowledge ordinary people achieving extraordinary life goals. And on that occasion, I think we all realized that we have those stories to tell. And those stories need to be told and retold because they help people understand who we are. Each of you has that story. So let me talk to you now about the science. What is the science? The science is the how. You see, over a period of time, since 1905, as Rotary becomes a world organization, we've been accumulating a body of wise practice, how to do things more efficiently and more effectively. We learn from our successes. We learn from things that don't go so successfully, but we learn. And whether you're going to the Rotary website to see a body of information or knowledge there, whether you're at President-elect training, or whether you're going to the District Training Assembly, May 9th, 10th, 11th in Victoria, 30% discount for Americans. Whatever we do, we are learning. We are learning. But I think our best example of learning is the Rotary Foundation. The best example of our how is the Rotary Foundation. You see, it's complex, yes, it's simple. Each year we give to the annual fund. Those funds are invested for 3 years. And then along with the interest from the endowment or the permanent fund, they come back to our district in 3 years to see the global and district grant work that we do. Those dollars are multiplied and they help us to seed hope throughout the world. I'm going to ask you to think about the things that you do to fundraise, whether it's the turkey trot or the duck race. I want you to think of your contributions to the foundation. And let's put that aside now. I'm going to give each of you an eraser. And I want you to erase through Silverdale and this whole area, erase every single project that Rotary's ever done. Then I want you to take your eraser out into the world and erase the 2 polio drops, the cisterns, the latrines. Then I want you to erase those invisible strands, the stories, the bonds that unite you as friends, as part of the Rotary family, of all that you have met. Imagine the void without Rotary. Would we be this close to the eradication of polio? No, we would be this close. You see, we have this remarkable ability to imprint our world. And as one person asked in our board meeting today, how do we get that message out there? You see, public image is the what? Public image is the demonstration of what we do. And it helps people, again, develop a level of understanding of who we are as Rotarians. We have to retell the stories because, as a wise person once said, you cannot touch their wallets until you touch their hearts. And another wise person, I know lots of wise people, another wise person said to me, you don't give to Rotary, you give through Rotary. I'm going to tell you my second story now, and this is my science story. And I have to take you back to Campbell River, but it's the early 1980s, so just think of it. Think of how old you are right now. You're much younger. And you're in my Social Studies 11. I have 2 classes I've combined for this lesson. And you're looking at me, and I am 6'4", and I am really good looking, and I am what you call a chick magnet. Okay, sorry, Rick, I noticed a bit of puzzlement. Yes, what happens in stories, sometimes the details get a little fuzzier when we retell them. But the truth of the story is I am standing in front of 2 Social Studies 11 classes. And this is my big how question. How do I get Social Studies 11 students to think beyond their own insular lives? It's social studies. We're supposed to be learning about the world. And they're thinking about their hair product or their eyeglasses or who's going out with who on the weekend. So there was a Time magazine article that had just been published, and it was brilliant. And what it did is it divided the world into 5 socioeconomic groups. First world were highly industrialized, resource-rich, strong leadership, basically North America, Europe. Second world were communist countries. Third world tended to be South American. Fifth world were the countries that, as we say, are on permanent foreign assistance. They don't have the resources, perhaps the leadership, to ever pull themselves out of dependency on others. Then I would divide the class into 5 representative population groups from the world. First world would plan, prepare, make their meal. Second world, third, fourth, fifth, and now we're ready to eat. In the first world, we've got beautiful tablecloth, linen napkins, cutlery, beautiful 3-course meal, chocolate cake, candlesticks. Second, third, fourth, fifth world, they're sitting on the floor over here, brown rice, lentils, and they've got a little bit of water. And then I put every student's name in the walk of life. And I pull their names out. First world, second, third, fourth, fifth. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Go to your station and eat your meal. Guess what the fifth world students say, sitting on the floor? That's not fair. That's not fair. And I say, stop, pause. This is what you call a teachable moment. You are right. Is this fair? Thank you. For all concerned. No. You need to thank someone in your ancestry, unless you're indigenous to this continent, for having the courage, the foresight, the vision to move your family here at some point. Because what did that gain? That has given you the opportunity to have clean water, education, health care, and most importantly, opportunity. You did, I would say to my Canadian students, you did better than winning the lottery, because you are one of, at the time, 32 million people in a world of 5.5 billion. You see, we do because we have the means to do. We have what Xavier Ramey talked about at the Toronto Convention. He called it privilege. And in our lives, I think, we recognize that it is important as members of a global community to pay forward some of what we have been fortunate to accumulate. I'm not a man of wealth, but I do believe that every dollar I give through Rotary is shepherded, is stewarded with transparency and impact and intentionality. Charity Navigator gives us the best rating in the world for the way we caretake our Rotary dollars. And as a result of that, we leave a huge imprint. Our Rotary International Vice President, John Matthews, talks about moving the needle forward. And what he means by that, he says, if every one of us as Rotarians just move the needle forward a bit, imagine the impact. Whether that's giving to Rotary Direct, giving to the foundation on a regular basis, whether, as I did 3 years ago, signing up to become a Paul Harris Society members, I give $1,000 a year to Paul Harris, and believe me, those are US dollars, I'm just saying. Whatever you do, whether it's asking someone to be a Rotarian or becoming part of a fundraiser that your club is involved in, whatever you do, you see, if we all do just a little bit more, the accumulated little bit more becomes the impetus for change. I would be so proud to see us raise our per capita foundation giving from $160 to $200 per capita. So I want to speak briefly about our future. Our future at the Peace and Sustainability Conference this year in Vancouver, BC, David Suzuki, a well-known environmentalist, said, "Did you know we are the only species on the planet that has the ability to envision and therefore plan for the future?" Daunting thought, great, exciting challenge and responsibility. Our Rotary International Vision Statement published says, "Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves." And I always got the across the globe and in communities. At the age I'm at now, I get the in ourselves. Because as a Rotarian, I look at the world differently now. And it's been a huge gift, I think, to understand what that responsibility means. And so, in terms of future, I couldn't pass up this opportunity to acknowledge and promote our Rotary Youth programs. Thank you, Silverdale Rotary, for all that you do with youth. You are a gold standard of community club that invests in and believes. As a teacher, I know what a gift it was to watch students become who they would be. Not always who they were at the time, but who they would eventually become if adults invested in their development and leadership. So whether you're honoring a Rotary Student of the Month, or whether you're feeding hungry children, or whether you are sponsoring an Interact Club or a Rotaract Club, whatever you do, please just keep doing it. But the most important program, the one that brings me here today, my son was a Rotary Youth Exchange student in 1997. And when it came time to decide which of those clubs I would be part of, it was Rotary. So just look, you have Ruby, you have Matcha here. And tell yourselves, this is really what it's about. You see, when they're here for 11 months, and they go home to their countries, they tell stories. They tell stories of what a kind, caring, generous, supportive people we are. They leave parts of themselves here with us. And they take parts of us with them. And you see, as a result of that, we build understanding. I think of Resha Ray, who lived in Port Hardy about 5 years ago, 5 years ago. Who knows where Port Hardy is? Just raise your hand. Wonderful, this is a gifted group. Woodland is our very southern club. If you go to the top of Vancouver Island, you're at Port Hardy, population 3,500. Reshad comes to our Rotary Club in Campbell River. He says, "Good morning, my name is Reshad Ray. I come from Jakarta, city of 17.5 million people. And this year I'm living in Port Hardy with some people." Yeah. And when he leaves to go home to his life, I say, "Reshad Ray, what will you take with you? What will you always remember?" He said, "Oh, Craig, it's so simple." I said, "What?" He said, "It's the clean water from the tap every day for every person. It is the smell of the sea salt air in the morning when I get up in Port Hardy." And so you see those 8,000 students that return, and sometimes they come back. Those 8,000 students, they go back as our peace ambassadors, and they tell those stories that help us to become the world that we want to be, a world of peace, a world of understanding. And so, I leave you with a couple of words I was going to prompt you to take with you. And so I'm going to ask you to repeat these words as I point to you. And the first word is heart.
Heart.
And the second word is science.
Science.
And because you are such a gifted Silverdale group, we're going to throw in a third word that's inspiration.
Inspiration.
Heart, science, inspiration. That is who we are as Rotarians. That is what we are about. And I ask you two things today. When you go out of these doors, move the needle forward in your Rotary year. Do whatever you can, just a little bit more. You decide what that is. You decide with your resources, your heart, your time, what it is. But if we all do that little bit more, what an impact we will continue to have. And the second is the pay it forward. And I have to take a step down here because I have a prop. And this prop is well known as my Shoebox of Life. And what is a Shoebox of Life? Well, it's what I've had in my closet for about 50 years. And into it I put any cards, notes, letters, newspaper clippings. It's a photo of putting a student in a wheelchair in Colombia when I was part of our club's wheelchair expedition. And as we put that child in, parents say, "You are from angels." It's whatever charts my journey as a Rotarian, as a humanitarian. And you see, there are days when being a volunteer isn't all that much fun, and people keep asking you to do the same job again and again. And for some people, sometimes there's a day when you say, "Do I have the time, the resources, the energy to continue as a Rotarian?" So what do? You go to your Shoebox of Life, you open it up and you reread some of those cards, those notes, those letters, and you remind yourself of how others see the work that you do as a Rotarian, as a humanitarian. And that's all the strength, that's all the forward looking that you need. So how do you fill Shoeboxes of Life? Well, you all have an independent home kit in front of you. There's a pin to remind you to be the inspiration. But there's a blank note card. And I ask you to take this home. And I ask you to think of someone who's inspired or motivated you in your life. It can be your partner or a neighbor or teacher or someone down the road. Take some time to write to them and thank them for what they've given you, for what they've contributed to your life. You see, it's pretty simple. If 4,554 Rotarians all send one note, we are filling 4,554 shoeboxes of life. And that's what we do so well as Rotarians. So in conclusion, I thank you for your time. I thank you for all of the energy that you have put forward in making your club, what it is. The biggest thank you I have for you is thank you for choosing to be a Rotarian. Because as of that decision, there are so many that will benefit. With your skills, your talents, your heart, your leadership, any club would have welcomed you with open arms, but you chose Rotary. And that's made all the difference, because there's some child that's going to have 2 polio drops. And there's a young girl that's going to come to school now for the first time in some village because Rotary built a cistern there, and now she can take water home at the end of the day as well as have an education during the day. There's a Peace Scholar from Zimbabwe. We don't always see what our dollars are doing, but know that through Rotary, our dollars are doing and doing and doing. And so my final word, remember that it's never about an individual. It's never about one person. It's always about the we, together. You see, I truly believe that together as Rotarians, we can, we must, and we will make a significant difference in this world through the heart, through the science, and through the inspiration of Rotary. Thank you very much.